A lot of people read the Bible or they hear different stories of the Bible, and it's hard to kind of keep in mind what comes before what or what story is part of what sort of era of biblical history. So I just want to share a quick 4,000 years of biblical and church history in 4 minutes, and a little memory device that helps me to hold on to these different key moments or these landmarks in biblical history and church history up to now. So if you draw a line on a piece of paper and you divide it in half, and on the far left side write the name Abraham, and on the far right side write the word now. So about halfway between Abraham and now, so about halfway between the two endpoints of that line, draw another line. Guess who's there halfway between? Jesus. The period of Jesus is about halfway between Abraham and now. And that's surprising to some people, because some people think Abraham, well, maybe wasn't that far before Jesus or whatever. So now draw another line halfway between Abraham and Jesus, and make another mark halfway between Abraham and Jesus, and you have David. So David's time period was about halfway between Abraham and Jesus. So again, that surprises some people. Maybe doesn't surprise you. But it's helpful to kind of keep that in mind of how far apart these different, really obviously important people were spread. Now, halfway between Abraham and David, guess who you would write there? Moses. So the time of the Exodus is roughly, again, these are very rough approximations, but roughly halfway between Abraham and David. So you have Abraham and the patriarchs, and they go into slavery. Well, they're in Egypt, not first as slaves, obviously, but they're building a community there, and then they end up in slavery after 400 years, and then Moses calls them out and in the desert. And then you have the time of Judges between Moses and David. David is the time of Kings. He's the second king, obviously, after Saul, and then you have a time of Kings for a while. Now, halfway between David and Jesus, you can make another mark, and what you would write there is exile. So after the times of Kings, you have that time of exile. Of course, the northern kingdom was destroyed before this, but this would be the southern kingdom going into exile in Babylon. And then between exile and Jesus, you have the Second Temple period and the Maccabean revolt and the stuff that's not actually in the Bible, at least the Protestant Bible. But that's that time period there between exile and Jesus. We can continue this into the time from Jesus to now. So if you divide between Jesus and now in half, make another line there. Roughly halfway between Jesus and now, you have the Crusades. I would consider kind of a low point in Christianity. It's hard to, the Crusades are very different than the Christianity that Jesus put forward. So it's very, very different, and it really doesn't look much like Christianity in the Bible at all. And so I kind of look at that as maybe a low point. That could be debated, but a decline to that low point, if you draw a line halfway between Jesus and the Crusades, you have the church-state joining of the church and state, where the church becomes the established religion of Rome, and arguably becomes pretty corrupt in the centuries that follow. And halfway between the Crusades and now, you could put one more line and put Reformation, Protestant Reformation, and that's again, very rough approximation, but the beginning of a lot of needed reforms in the church that bring us to today. So that's it. Hopefully that helps to kind of frame your thinking as you hear different stories from the Bible or think about different periods of church history. Just a quick way to kind of hold this in your brain as far as when these different events occurred, and I hope it helps you to get more out of the Bible.